Happy Monday and welcome to Select Financial Capital's Real Estate News. Here are some of the top 3 real estate news stories of the past week to get you ready for this week. First off, a home price turning point. Signs are growing. We are at a home price turning point. This is partly based on a recent article from The Week. Home sellers now outnumber buyers in the U.S. by nearly 500,000. That's the largest gap between the two groups since Redfin began compiling the data in 2013. That means sellers are getting more power. Now, that comes despite the median price of an existing home still rising nationally by 1.8% in April to $414,000, the 22nd consecutive month of year-over-year price increases. Median home prices are 33% higher than they were in 2019, and that is still putting houses out of the reach of most Americans. However, major pockets of the country, especially in Florida and Texas, are seeing prices slash this spring to lure buyers back into the market. Now, some fiercely competitive areas, like the New York City suburbs, continue to see price rises, but properties there that used to be getting multiple offers are now just getting a few. And in the South and the West, we're seeing inventory piling up. Homes are sitting in the market for months. In the Phoenix area, more than 26,000 houses are currently idling unsold, and sellers are now the ones starting to sweeten the deal. We're also seeing canceled sales rising in April. All of this points to that we may be at a home price turning point, and we might even be seeing price declines spread as buyers get more power. Our next story, DOGE effect on Washington, D.C. real estate. Earlier this year, DOGE descended on the district and began laying off federal workers, eliminating 59,000 jobs. It seemed that eventually we'd see this starting to impact the local housing market, and we're starting to finally see signs of that. According to Bright MLS survey of area real estate agents who are working with a buyer or seller in May, 37% reported they had worked with a client who was buying or selling because of the federal layoffs. That's on top of 15% of all spring sales in the DC area being motivated by retirements, as compared to 10% in the larger East Coast region. That suggests many of the retirees in the DC region are aging federal workers who accepted the Trump administration's buyout offers. 43% of the surveyed agents said that the layoffs and budget cuts have increased the number of sellers in the market, and 38% reported that prices are falling as a result. Now, until now, the DC market has demonstrated a lot of resilience, and that's according to monthly data released by Bright MLS. In May, home prices hit a record high in the region, with a median sold price of $659,950. That's up from $640,000 a year ago. However, the number of closed sales is down. Pending sales are up, suggesting that buyers are taking advantage of the increase in inventory. Those buying do tend to be more affluent, and we've seen softness in the condo market. Where will the market go from here post-DOGE? A lot of federal employees may have been waiting until the end of the school year to list their properties, so we could be seeing more inventory hitting the market and more downward price pressure in the DC area. Our last story, New York's mayor's race may have been driven by the housing crisis. This was covered in the Wall Street Journal. But the New York City's cutthroat rental market may be a big reason Mandani won the Democratic primary for mayor last Tuesday. The 33-year-old assemblyman and socialist from Queens made housing a core piece of his agenda. He's pledging upfront to freeze rents on rent-stabilized apartments, invest $70 billion in publicly subsidized housing, and open up public land for housing developments on top of other policies. Now, the city's vacancy rate recently dropped to a record 1.4%. That's the lowest since 1968 and about as close as you can get to 0%. The monthly rent for a two-bedroom apartment has climbed 17.5% over the past year to $5,560. That's according to rental listing site Zoomper. Developers and landlords are critical, of course, of the platform. They're saying that rent freezes will discourage any new investment or even spending on maintaining of existing units. And they are already dealing with impacts on New York City's 2019 rent laws, which made it harder to increase prices in the city's more than 1 million rent-regulated units. But it does seem that for Mandani, the housing crisis and his policies on housing that sound good to a lot of voters was a big factor in him winning the Democratic primary. We'll see if he becomes mayor. Thanks for listening. Again, this was sponsored by Select Financial Capital. Get on our free newsletter list. You can visit our website, selectfincap.com. Let us know any comments. Give us a thumbs up if you enjoyed this weekly update. Thank you again for joining us.